At a rainy train station, a stranger says, "I'm so sorry about the rain," then asks to borrow another stranger's phone. The apology is logically absurd. They did not cause the weather and both people know it. Yet 47% of people lent the phone after hearing that line, compared with just 9% after the same request without it. The rain stayed the same, the phone stayed the same, and the two people were still strangers. Only the unnecessary apology changed. The result looks irrational only if every sorry means the same thing. I caused this, and I am to blame. If the speaker is not accepting blame, what exactly is the listener receiving? A repair apology follows clear harm. You broke something, missed a promise, or caused a problem that now belongs to you. Yet the same word appears before a question, while squeezing through a crowded space, during disagreement, or after someone else interrupts you. People say sorry when hearing bad news they did not cause, and sometimes after walking directly into a chair. Judged by the rules of repair, these apologies make no sense, because there is no damage to admit and nothing to repay. Therefore, guilt is the wrong measuring stick for most of them. The better question is, what small social problem was the word trying to solve? An interruption, an imposition, discomfort, tension, or the risk of being misunderstood? Researchers call this a superfluous apology, regret for an unpleasant circumstance the speaker clearly did not cause. The requester is not confessing to the weather or pretending they could have stopped it. They are doing something smaller and socially useful before asking for the phone, acknowledging that the other person is standing in the same rain. That recognition signals empathic concern and awareness that the request is landing on someone who is already uncomfortable. The listener still knows nothing about the requester's character, but now has one piece of evidence that this stranger notices other people. That can change the request from a bare demand into an interaction that feels more considerate and less risky. At the station, the measurable difference was large. 47% lent the phone after "I'm so sorry about the rain," compared with 9% after the neutral request. The apology did not guarantee cooperation, but it made trust far more likely. Its job was therefore not to repair the rain. It was to make the requester's concern visible. That explains why the phrase can work once discomfort is already obvious. An apology can also arrive before anything has gone wrong. "Sorry to bother you." "Sorry, can I ask something?" Or, "Sorry, I need some help." Here, the speaker is not repairing damage. They are recognizing that the request may consume someone else's time, attention, or emotional energy. That acknowledgement lowers the social cost of asking by showing that the possible burden has been noticed rather than ignored. Appreciation can perform a similar job. "Thank you for listening" frames the same request through gratitude instead of regret. Researchers tested these different openings with 983 American and Korean participants. Requests containing either an anticipatory apology or appreciation received more person-centered responses than requests containing neither. In plain terms, the reply was more attentive to the person asking, even though no offense had occurred and help was not guaranteed. The wording did not prove that the speaker felt guilty, lacked confidence, or deliberately used a social technique. It showed that recognizing another person's possible burden can shape the quality of the response before that burden even exists. With a low confidence explanation is tempting. So a diary study tested a more basic possibility. Perhaps people disagree about what counts as an offense in the first place. The diary study found the familiar gap. Women reported 217 apologies, while men reported 158. Taken alone, that can look like a difference in confidence, guilt, or willingness to admit fault. Then the researchers counted something earlier in the chain: how many offenses each group believed had happened. Women reported 267 perceived offenses, compared with 196 reported by men. Once an event crossed the line and was judged offensive, both groups apologized for roughly 81% of those events. The larger difference was therefore not what happened after someone recognized an offense. It appeared at the threshold itself. The same interruption, careless remark, or minor inconvenience could register as apology-worthy to one person and remain below the line for another. Related tests supported that reading. Men rated identical hypothetical offenses and offenses they recalled themselves as less severe on average. That does not make either threshold universally correct, and it does not turn group averages into a diagnosis of any individual speaker. It means frequent apologizing may reflect how often someone detects social friction, rather than how little confidence they have once they detect it. But thresholds are learned inside relationships and cultures where respect, directness, and permission to impose are not distributed evenly. In favor request studies, Japanese participants used apologies more often, while American participants relied more often on thanks. Both phrases could recognize the other person's effort, but they packaged that recognition differently. One emphasized the burden, the other the benefit. Those are group patterns, not fixed national rules, and they cannot explain every speaker inside either culture. Social role changes the signal again, because the same sorry can sound considerate from someone with little control and calculated from someone with much more. An apology from a powerful person may face greater skepticism when the listener suspects that the words are protecting status rather than accepting a cost. Fear of negative evaluation or anxiety can also increase apologizing in some situations, especially when a person expects judgment for asserting a need. That makes these possible influences not a universal diagnosis hiding behind every unnecessary sorry. Therefore, context changes what the apology means, but listeners still use the repeated pattern to decide what kind of person seems to be speaking. Repeated apologies do create an impression, but it is not simply that the speaker seems weaker. Frequent apologizers were often judged as more communal, warmer, more attentive, and more concerned with the relationship. That reputation helps explain why social softeners can work. The listener sees someone who notices friction and tries to reduce it. A separate judgment can move differently because frequent apologizing sometimes made the speaker appear less agentic or less willing to hold a position. Yet that cost was not automatic. In romantic relationships, partners lost agency mainly when their frequent apologies were judged to be low quality. Repetition alone also did not make every later apology worthless. A communal reputation could produce more favorable reactions when a genuine apology arrived. The trade-off therefore depends less on the raw number of times someone says sorry than on whether the words fit the situation and carry any substance. Warmth can make an apology easier to receive, but warmth cannot perform accountability on the speaker's behalf. The distinction has to come from what happened, what responsibility the speaker accepts, and what they are prepared to do next. Once actual harm exists, apology frequency stops mattering nearly as much as apology structure. Researchers identified 6 useful components: regret, explanation, accepting responsibility, repentance, offering repair, and requesting forgiveness. They did not contribute equally. Accepting responsibility and offering repair mattered most, while asking for forgiveness mattered least. That ordering is important because it shifts the apology away from "please make me feel better" and toward "I own what happened and here's what I will do about it." Across 18 papers, 36 effect sizes, and 4,731 participants, a meta-analysis found that apologies produced a moderate improvement in trust repair, with an effect size of D equals 0.44. So genuine apologies generally help, but they do not erase the violation or guarantee forgiveness. They also worked better after competence failures, mistakes, poor judgment, or inability than after integrity violations such as dishonesty. A mistake can sometimes be corrected with evidence that the person has learned or changed the process. An integrity violation attacks the listener's belief about who the speaker is, which language alone has a much harder time repairing. But even an apology with the right components can fail if the timing is wrong. The motive looks strategic, or the harmed person has not yet been heard. A prompt apology can be better than silence. It still arrives before the harmed person has explained what the violation actually cost them. When people had time to speak and felt understood first, the apology that followed was often received more effectively. Credibility matters too. The same words can attract greater suspicion from a powerful speaker whose motives appear tied to protecting status. Timing and phrasing also cannot make dishonesty behave like a simple mistake. Some violations damage the belief that the speaker can be trusted at all. Frequent sorry reveals even less by itself. It may come from empathy, politeness training, anxiety, conflict avoidance, hierarchy, or several influences working together. You bump into a chair, hear yourself say sorry, and move on before your brain has time to explain who exactly was offended. The chair was not, and the apology was probably never meant for it. The reflex is a compact response to disruption, acknowledge the awkward moment, signal harmless intent, and keep a small piece of friction from becoming larger. The same word can soften a question, recognize someone else's discomfort, or prepare a request, but those jobs are different from repairing harm. When responsibility is real, sorry needs ownership and action behind it. Sometimes the word means, I caused this. Sometimes it simply means, I noticed the friction and I do not want it to grow.